Just another second here to get the YouTube on YouTube live. Great. All right, I think we're ready to go now. I'll just go through the call to order again. It's 2:03 p.m. September 14th, 2023, meeting of the Grant County Budget Advisory Board. Voting members present today are Shaylee Bryant, Gabriel Wojtek, Renee Baker, Kevin Walker, and we have Mike McCurdy, who's a designated replacement for Commissioner Mike McCurdy, who's a designated replacement for Commissioner Bill Winfield. Also present today are Quinn Hall, Dana Van Horn, Angie Book, John Cortez, and Gina Nelson. Am I missing anyone? All right, we'll move right along to action items. We have action item number 1 is approval of minutes for the Budget Advisory Board meeting on September 7th, 2023. Did anyone have a chance to review those minutes? I would entertain a motion to approve.
All right, go ahead, Shaylee.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
I second it.
Motion to approve the minutes from September 7th, 2023 by Baker, second by Bryant. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Motion passes 5-0. Kevin Walker is online. He voted in the affirmative. All right. We're going to move right along here to presentations and discussions. Number 2 is department presentations. And first up will be Director of OSTA, or the Old Spanish Trail Arena, Angela Book. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen on the accounting software.
Is there a way to turn that TV on too?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure this is maximized. I know sometimes this cell can look a little bit small. All right. All right. Well, thanks for being here, Angie.
Of course, thank you.
First, we'll go over the revenue line items that are associated with the Old Spanish Trail Arena. I'll just say OSTA from here on out.
Yep.
That is in the general fund miscellaneous revenues, and there's 3 revenue lines that you mainly manage. One being, we'll start with arena rents, this 103627. That was budgeted for $80,000 this year. It's coming in under, and we're proposing to set that revenue line at 50. Do you want to give any detail regarding that scenario?
The reason why it's coming in under is because we've had multiple events cancel throughout the year. So.
And do you expect those cancellations to
Yeah,
carry over?
I don't think they're coming back. So I would feel confident with staying about the same for next year.
Next is we'll talk about stall rents. We're carrying that over from the budgeted amount of $53,000 for 24, being the same amounts.
Yeah, and we're about halfway there already, right?
They're all negative except for 2021 numbers. So just on both that and the last one we looked at.
Thanks.
That's gonna change the budget a lot.
Yeah, thanks. I just have to.
Figure out how to use that speaking thing.
Right. They would have gotten caught. So I guess there might not be much to say other than we're just expecting the same amount of revenue for stall rents. It's in line, even though we're coming in a little bit under in actuals for this year. You're expecting that to pick back up and reach this sort of projected amount, more or less.
We should be close.
Okay. And then 3,600 in stage rent would be the third thing, the mobile stage that the county just acquired this year, or maybe it was late last year, but it was not put into use until this year.
Right.
That is hosted or housed out at the OSTA facility, so you take on the management of its rental. And that is used for the free concert series in the park, the
Yeah.
free summer concert series put on by, is that the Moab Folk Festival? So,
I don't know what she's part of, but
yeah,
it's the Freak Summer Concert Series.
so,
And then there should be another one coming up that might bring in some more revenue. And then the cities also will be using it, which will be helping getting it there, but they don't pay.
city won't pay a rent
Right.
fee on that. The 3,600 will be carried over for 24 based on that free summer concert series. And that might get bumped up due to the November Folk Festival.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll move right on to your expense side. Yes, please. All right, and then just for the sake of, to remind the board and everyone present and any public that might be viewing, we'll focus on lines, on providing detail for lines that where there might be a significant change from the approved budget from 2023 to now, or to the request for 2024. That's mostly what we'll focus this discussion on. A lot of the lines that are carried over represent baseline operational costs across departments. So we don't spend a whole lot of time discussing those items. Let's see.
And Angie, you have a good note in there on the OT. I had that same question, so I'll put it in, but no other personnel changes for 24.
Nope,
Okay.
everything's staying the same.
Okay.
So to start with subscriptions and memberships, there was a line that had been charged to that line that we moved into the schooling line because it felt like a more appropriate coding of that expense. So that was zeroed out there. Angie provides lots of great detail, so we'll open up these worksheets that she worked so hard preparing for us to display the level of detail that Angie prepares her budget at, which is very much appreciated and provides a lot of transparency for everyone viewing. So advertising, that looks like that number is carried over from last year. Did you have anything in there
Nope,
that you wanted to say?
everything's still the same there.
Okay. Travel, we are moving up on, so
Yeah.
I'll open up that worksheet and let you describe the travel request going from 1,560 to 8,085.
Okay, the reason the request for travel is going up is because I've joined the IAFE Association, which is an International Fair Association, and they have a convention every year. I did have it in the budget this year to attend this year's convention, which just happens to be in Salt Lake City, but next year's convention is in Phoenix. So there'll be hotel fees, airfare fees, and car rental things along those lines. And I'm budgeting that in for 3 staff members. So it'd be by myself, my assistant director, and my admin. And this association and convention covers everything from county fairs to facilities. So it could be things from stock pins to stock contractors, entertainment, materials, everything to do with facilities altogether and the county fair.
Question.
So, having been on the airport board Contour is gonna be flying directly to Phoenix from Moab, and I think round trip, the flights are like $200.
Okay.
So I
No,
don't know that
probably
we need to
not.
budget that much for airfare for 3 people,
Nice.
so that could save us some good money.
Let's see, where is that travel?
One down, right there, airfare.
Airfare, yeah. So would you propose moving that to 600?
Yeah, I just think we could, it's not 600 per person, that'd be 600 total,
Right. That looks
so
like
it'd be
quantity.
200 per person.
Thank you.
That would just, it's my thought,
You okay
I'm
with
not
that,
sure what those
Angie?
flights.
Yeah, if that's what you're coming back with it, and
Thank you
that's
for
what
that
you were told, I'm
insight.
fine with that.
It should be a good one, I'm curious to go fly it, but
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, golfing in the winter.
And worst case scenario, if it comes back too much, I could talk to you about it, or if Phoenix
Absolutely.
isn't that far away, we could drive.
Absolutely.
To make it work.
But we do like to budget as much
Yeah.
as we can. to actuals that we know. Great. And then that was good background. I had thought that conference was mainly, primarily only focused on the fair aspect, but it sounds like it'll be applicable to
Yeah.
a wide array of the operations that you take on at the.
Yeah, there's everything from stock pins that will be there, stock contractors. It's the full facility. So I could use it across the board.
The reception for the county, the return of the county fair, I'd say across the community was very positive. And it seems like it's really worth this sort of investment in building momentum for that effort. And that would be.
I don't think a day goes by that somebody's not knocking on my door asking me what my plans are for next year.
Right. Office expense supplies, it's carried over. You provide incredible amount of detail there. We don't need to go there. That's awesome. Thank you. Equipment maintenance, the approved budget was 22,412 for 23, 24,248 for 24. So that appears to be a reasonable incremental increase in what we would expect in terms of
Yeah.
expected cost increases.
And that is mainly just because steel keeps going up. And then also next year I have to have the vault toilets pumped, which is something we do every couple of years depending on their use, but they do have to be pumped next year. Yeah, and it's mostly just the metal, cost of metal and that.
Ball field equipment, there was those aerator times that kind of created a little bit of an increase in $300 from last year's. approved
Yeah, the
budget.
aerator tanks went up drastically in the cost.
Buildings and ground maintenance, that's down actually from 43 approved to a request of 38. Detail provided. I might just leave that up for a second, just so that the record can reflect, because we won't provide that detail, but this will be on the YouTube recording for pausing and whatnot. Thanks for doing that again, Angie.
Good detail.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Building and grounds maintenance for the ball field.
I think that one's up a little bit from last year.
Okay, up from 24,728 to a request of 25,519.
Yes, and that is because the ball field, the main filter at the ball field needs to be replaced. All the pieces inside the ball field are starting to show wear, and they're all extremely expensive. So it's just time to replace it. It's original from 2012. So I want to replace that. And then also on the softball field number 1, we want to cut it out and extend it more to where we can move the bases back, which will need some more infield conditioner dirt.
And those, the trend of increased usage at the ball fields that
Yes.
you would say is continuing?
Yes, we actually have softball starting up right now, and then the adult league starts Monday night.
Starts
You have
Monday.
me out, you
Yeah.
have me out.
Yeah, we have
With the
3
ball.
games
All
starting
day.
nightly on Monday, so.
And to be clear, what you were talking before in terms of parts and filters and things that relates to irrigation for the outfield grass. maybe?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Thank you. Utilities, 30 was approved in 23. 36 is being requested for 24, so that's a $6,000 increase.
Yeah, and this is something that we talked about. This is a line that's always been, I feel like, under budgeted. And I've taken money and set it aside from other accounts to cover it this year, because it is gonna, the way it's going, it is gonna be over budget. So just planning for next year, giving you real numbers, those are real numbers.
And I've seen the spreadsheets that Angie uses to track her utility costs and projections, and I trust that this is an accurate estimate of actual cost. This says 19,765 is actual, so that doesn't exactly project out to 30 in a linear fashion, but there are some end of year costs associated with use. There's a spike at the end of the year. with
Yeah, well,
regards
and
to
it's not,
utilities.
they're not all in yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Thank you. Ball field utilities, there was an approved budget of 6,500 for this year. That's up to 7,500
Yep,
for the
same thing,
request?
just trying to get actuals in.
Okay. Lease payments. Open that up. So this relates to water irrigation lease from the cemetery district.
Yep.
As well as enterprise lease vehicles that your department uses.
Yep.
Do you have all three of these vehicles, or are you budgeting for any that
No, we
you're
have all
hoping-
three, we have all of those now.
And that's pretty in line with what we've seen it be. Fuel up a little bit.
Yeah, fuel, the way I do my spreadsheet for fuel for all of our vehicles and the way we do our maintenance, it actually comes out to this extremely huge number. So I have to figure it out realistically. And coming up towards the end of this year, we're maybe just a hair over the $10,000 marker. Maybe we might be under it. But I think the 11,000 will be the safer bet,
Okay,
especially having the additional tractor now.
so there's an additional tractor?
Yeah.
Okay. And you use the bulk fuel provided at the roads
Yes.
depot for
Yeah.
the vast majority
Yeah,
of your fuel needs?
Everything, yeah.
That definitely provides the best value to the county and to the taxpayers. Professional and technical, that's roughly the same. We'll open up the breakout.
Yeah, there's just a slight difference because event pro rates it rates.
Okay. And just, I should probably verbalize it. Fuel, the request is at 11,000 from 10,000 in 2023. Professional and technical is up from an approved in 23 from 1170 up to 1220 for the 24 request.
Mhm.
Cell phone allowance, that's right in line. Stall maintenance, that was budgeted through 3050 in 23, same number in 24. I'll just open that up just for the record. It looks like there's maybe this was kind of the same. There was like there was lumber or some items that were purchased last
So
year. and
last
the
year it would
project
be
is continued.
paint,
Okay,
which I haven't bought yet. We're still trying to find the right paint.
Yeah.
So we're gonna buy the paint and the lumber and just try
okay.
getting as much done we can with that money.
So just phasing from year to
Yeah.
year, the improvement
Yeah,
of the
and we may
facilities.
have to like alter next year to get more just to finish it, just
Okay.
to finish all the parts.
We'll jump right down to event preparation, 4247. The next, I would say the next four lines are right in line with what they have been. Did you have anything to comment on those four lines? Event preparation, work crew supplies, anything to comment on those?
No,
I'm gonna just quickly open up these worksheets just for the YouTube recording. Because, we don't want you to make those in vain.
right.
Just so it's all there. Even your bottle of Gojo is in there.
It's necessary.
Great. Then down to inventory. That's an item where there's some computers and other durable furnishings
Yeah,
that we typically budget into the inventory line across county departments. And Angie can explain what's broken out here.
yeah, so radios, radio mounts, those are the things that we just always need. They break. IT department says we're due for one desktop replacement for the year. Hand washing sinks, those would be those portable hand washing sinks. Those are much needed. And then tables and chairs. We definitely need to start replacing tables and chairs at the arena. It's time, and we need more. That's what I have for the arena side. And then the ball field side would be a pressure washer with attachments. And then a V-style acre rake and a dump trailer. And it would be a little dump trailer for like a UTV, not a big vehicle type dump trailer.
And I just have a question about this year, your regular inventory is at 18,000, only 2,000 spent. Do you have something
Yeah,
big coming in?
yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the best deal on tables right
Sure, okay,
now. So I'm gonna have one big lump sum coming out in tables here in just a moment.
Sure, and then another additional, just a,
Mhm. Yeah, tables are expensive,
yeah,
and that's
Okay.
probably only gonna get me about 20 tables with what I have in inventory right now.
sure.
And this 15,000 for tables and chairs being requested, is that like folding tables and chairs, like these white ones?
It'll be these
Yeah,
tables.
and then folding chairs just that go out on the dirt, usually for big, larger events, kind of. Okay. And then this line just got added today. We talked
Oh,
about this. There was a group that proposed donating some funds
Yes.
for,
So the Red Rock Four Wheelers does a donation every year, and they give me a cap, and they would like it to be a singular item to donate to the arena. So I'm in the process of going through and figuring out what that's going to be. I'm leaning towards the portable speakers, and then I'll present that to them and see if they want to do.
and then we'll include 3,500 in the miscellaneous revenue line to offset that, that funded.
Yeah, which will be paid back.
Okay. And one last expense line to review here, that's schooling. The request is right now at 3317. The budget for this year was approved at 2595, so an increase of about 800 there.
Yeah,
Provide some detail.
and that would be for like the whole OSA staff to register for USU classes through the Spark program. That's giving 3 of the employees registration for 4 classes, and then another 3 of the employees registration for 2 classes. CPR, first aid training, I have 4 employees that will be up for that in February. And then registration for the convention. They provide classes during that convention, and there's 2 classes that I would like to register for. I have 1 employee that is up for their applicator's license for weeds. So it'd be the renewal of that, and that's everything.
Great. And then one last thing I wanted to look at, I'm going to open up this, my email here, which has this spreadsheet. Angie typically has capital requests to make that are associated with the arena, and this year is no exception. And we won't spend a lot of time sort of discussing those right now at this meeting, but I thought it would be appropriate since you're here to be able to provide these for the board and the public and give any background that you want and go through this list. But ultimately, there will be a consolidated capital request list that the commission will workshop about. And
the main reason why I want to discuss this is just, this is such a large ask and increase for OSTA to ask for. We typically don't ask for this much money, but we have a couple of projects that are pressing and are big maintenance safety concerns that need to happen. One being the fire suppression system. We just have to have a fire suppression system, and it's a big request. It's coming, some of the bids are coming in between 350 and 365. So I went ahead and put it at 375, just depending on how bids come back. I don't know if you feel comfortable enough just keeping it at the 365,000. That's the highest bid I got back, or I haven't put anything out to bid yet. So that will be a new process for me.
we can
Love
talk about
feedback
that.
on that.
We can talk about that when we finalize it.
Okay, and
This is good
then
for now.
the other project would be the replacement of the front lobby doors. They're deteriorating and water's coming into the arena at this point. That's a $30,000 project. The second phase of the sound system is highly anticipated from several event holders. So it's a big project that a lot of people are expecting. I did ask the rec board to split that with Grand County. So it'd only be $20,000, a $20,000 request coming from the Grand County side. And then the panel order, it's something that I request every year, but it's something that we rely on heavily. Panels get broken, dented, they need to be replaced all the time. And then I also use the additional pieces to start improving the outdoor arena. So we're building that up. And we're at a certain point where we're just want to keep adding to that and building that up and improving it. Those improvements have taken away multiple safety hazards too on the property. And other things, this is probably the least important, but also the first thing that people see is that front entry sign. It's deteriorating and I have large wood chunks that are falling off of it. So it's something that needs to be looked at and replaced. And then just things to keep in mind is the archery range project coming up. And then the grant for the playground pickleball court is a match grant. And then the project that we're working on with DNR. So that was DNR's working on a proposal for $100,000 for that implement shed. But as bids are coming back in on that, it's coming back in closer at 150.
And so to further elaborate on that, the DNR is going to use some space at OSTA, and
Yes.
in exchange, they're agreeing to contribute $100,000 to a new implement shed.
Yeah.
Those bids are coming out at 150, so Grant County
Yeah.
would have to come up
Yeah.
with 50.
And that's something that we're still talking about and we're still in meetings with. So it's not firmed up yet, but I definitely wanted it on everybody's radar. And that implement shed, we could there's other options we could do with that. We could either go smaller, maybe wait a little bit and build it later. But the implement shed will definitely take away what is being tagged as an attractive nuisance at OSTA. And it'll also give coverage for our implements and the stage.
Okay. And I'll say too, in your department report to the county commission, you went over some of those requests that you would be making. So you've done a good job of
Thank
giving everyone a heads up.
Thank you.
'Cause
I didn't want any
even though it is a big
surprises.
list, you're not trying to surprise
Yeah.
anyone with the amount of ads. Any questions from the board regarding this Old Spanish Trail Arena?
Don't have any. Thanks for your detail, as
Yeah.
always.
Makes it easy not to ask any questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you.
So moving on for presentation, department presentations, I will go ahead and I don't have to make a motion, but I'm calling to postpone the presentation of the weeds department. There's a little bit that myself and Personnel Services Director Renee Baker and Elizabeth Weimholtz, the Director of the Weeds Department, we still need to go over some things as it relates to the grant funding and some potential expansion of grant funded positions at the Weeds Department. There's a little bit more that I think we need to understand about how that grant funding works. And so I thought we would postpone that rather than wasting any time on it if we're underprepared for this meeting. So we will move right along. We have here Recorder John Cortez and his Chief Deputy Gina Nelson to present for the Grand County Recorder's Office. Open that up. All right, so here we go. We don't have salary, overtime, and benefit figures inputted into the accounting software yet. Just to let everyone know that, or just to explain why we're passing over that and not discussing that item, which is obviously the biggest part of most department budgets.
Do you want me to share my spreadsheet because do you have a position request in this department? Or we could do that at the end too.
I think that we can just have them sort of verbally
Sure.
introduce the concept right now, and
And
then
then
I
we
don't
look
even
at the
think,
numbers.
I don't even think we need to get into the numbers. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, so John and Gina, a new position, tell us about it. Give us a little intro.
My diabetes is acting up, so I'm gonna let Gina.
Okay.
say most of this.
Yeah, no problem.
We would like a new position where I would like to go, get all digitized in my office and get it online and available to the public. That's gonna take a lot of work. There's a lot of records that are not digitized at all. We are really behind on a lot of stuff in our office due to training for several years. and shortages, employees. And so there's a lot of catch up that needs to be done. And with all of the county's growth with plats and subdivisions, it's just a lot more work. And we are getting a lot more plats and it just creates more work. It's a lot of work to get those done. So it would just relieve some stress and some pressure to have another person in there to get caught up, get digitized, get online for the public, make it to where it's accessible for everybody, and give us a chance to get caught up and stay caught up and up to date with that.
Just to add a little note in there, the position that would be proposed would be an additional deputy at the same level as the
Yes.
current deputy, which is a grade 8.
Yes, yes,
So no
yeah,
1, 2, or
Yes.
3, they're just the same level.
yeah,
Thanks for that.
yep, same level, yeah.
Can you just describe the type of record that the public would most commonly access from the recorder's office that would be a digital record with this improvement? What, you know, what does that look like? A map?
So the maps are online. The
Okay.
maps are online. Our GIS department has all of our parcel on there. We have our plat maps, which are ownership maps online. So what I want to get online are our documents, which is everything recorded, everything that comes through our office is not online.
Mhm.
All of our older stuff from patent is not digitized. We have some stuff that we've digitized. It's very, it's a tedious job to get it digitized. So everything in our office, documents, back to patent, what's current, you know, and everything current.
Right now, what we have scanned is kind of sporadic. So, you know, it's not all there. It's not very complete.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Have you explored the possibility of something like that being executed on a contract basis?
so that I have. And that entails, I don't have a quote for that because it's almost out of the question. Because what they do is they come in and they take all of our records, they take them off-site for a very long extended amount of time, redo the books, redo the bindings, clean up the copies and the deeds that they have, and then digitize them and then bring them all back. And it is that will take a lot of money. That will take a lot of money, and I can get a quote. It might make you sick, but I can get a quote.
Well, basically, if you take a book out of the office, it's not accessible.
And then there's
So
no
we
way
have to
to,
make
yeah,
copies of it and then
It's-
let them
it's-
take it.
it's almost an unattainable goal to send it off-site.
Good,
There's-
that's great for the board and the public
Yeah.
to understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can get a quote though, if you think that would help.
I think it would, maybe if you think it would help your justification for a new position, I would leave that up to
I'll
you.
get a quote.
Um,
It's not gonna be pretty, so it will be probably a good idea to get a quote.
All right, we have budgeted in here 50 for the UAC record, that's Utah Association of Counties Recorder Group membership. Shraffle, we have at 1,400, which is the same number that was approved this year. Sure.
I'd like to add public notices back in because, you know, it's very rare, but still, sometimes you've got to advertise in the newspaper. And it's only having,
What sort of thing would you say would be advertised? The reason I'm just kind of asking
Right.
here is because we have budgeted for it historically, but you know, for 5 years, there hasn't been a number ever expended in that line.
right,
And right now, as far as statutorily required noticing, a lot of that is moving to availability online, which doesn't have any cost. So we don't actually even need to use the newspaper in a lot of cases now for noticing. Do you think that there's,
In,
what number do you do?
in
Would you
Utah
propose?
code, it says it has to be advertised in, well,
There has been some recent legislation. I can't reference it right now, so I guess I'm not ready to spar on it.
just.
What number would you request in public notices?
Just 300. I mean,
So as we look back at the budget, I'm gonna go ahead and put that 300 request in there. As the board can see, 300 has been that line as a sort of, in case a noticing requirement is met. So in this case, I will add in 300.
Is that something that just makes you nervous to not have in the budget at all, even though we
Yeah.
haven't been using it?
right.
Because I actually agree, I can't quote the legislation either, but I do think that those public notices are able to be online now.
Okay.
They aren't required in a physical newspaper any longer.
If that's the case, then I don't think we need it. But,
Okay. Well,
It makes it better.
so what I think is that it's a small enough amount that you will likely, you'll likely have some flexibility in your budget to absorb the cost that could be associated with noticing.
well, doesn't, if it's not used, it goes back into the general fund, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it doesn't go anywhere really at that point, but yeah,
Right. But
perhaps, one justification for including in there is if you do undertake a large scale digitization effort, perhaps that's something that you would want to put some effort into notifying the public about that availability. And so maybe that could be a justification that we could use for leaving that 300 in as some promotion regarding the availability of digitization.
That sounds perfect.
Can you maybe give some background and like what's the importance of us in a budget being not too high and also not too low? Then, especially for the public, of them understanding why wouldn't we just always budget high?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to over budget every item because then we have to show that our revenues are going to, meet that we're going to sort of be net zero budgeting, so that our revenues need to meet the amount of expenditures that we have. And so in order for us to meet all of the expense requests and the compensation of across the county of our staff, and to be able to do really important things like cost of living adjustments, and to be able to justify and make sure that there's room for those things. We have to make sure that we're not that we're reflecting actual costs across each department, so that we're responsibly budgeting everything.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's not something that people necessarily across the board understand.
Yeah.
So for our YouTube.
I don't know if it matters, but your camera switched for some reason. I checked on Alicia's got it, look,
It doesn't even look like it's on.
I don't know why the camera.
Or maybe because we went with.
It's screen sharing.
But it's using that
It is, but
camera
it's
instead
using
of the
that
owl.
camera, so I don't know, if it matters, it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
So the Cassell isn't being displayed on the
No, it is.
recording? Okay, then it does matter.
Yeah.
2,500 for office supplies and expenses, that's carried over from last year. Maintenance service, 500 is set for the 2024 request to account for the large format printer and microfiche in case there is maintenance or there is regular maintenance. There would be probably a service call from Grand Junction, for
Yes.
example.
Yes.
Right.
So that's built in there. This year, the fuel, because this department hasn't historically used its gas card or the bulk fuel station, which we would typically budget out of this line, it would be more reimbursements from their department's credit card, in which case we would include that in the travel line. So the travel note in the worksheet for travel includes fuel. So that's why we zeroed that one out. Professional services, we have here Coins, which is the property tax software, 3 seats for the CAD software, that's computer aided drafting. As well as if we've gone ahead and built in an extra CAD seat in the event that a new position was approved by the commission.
Yes.
And that can be adjusted at the final sort of tentative budget if, whether or not that position is approved. Special department supplies were set to 4,023 and carried on over. Do you want to explain what is budgeted in special department supplies?
Mostly the supplies for the printers, the large scale printers and
Paper.
paper and
Yeah,
ink and.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's that's the record of transactions for
I think that,
23 for
I
the
think we're
record.
supplying all the maps for all the other departments, so we print a lot of maps that want, and, you know, they want color and they want them pretty and they want them big.
I can attest to that. That's
So
that's
we have
definitely
a
true.
lot
I
of
like
ink
big
and
and
paper.
Miscellaneous supplies, that's down to 300 from 500 last year, and that's intended to reflect what the actual historical costs have been in that line. Capital equipment is no needs there this year. And then in this inventory line, there aren't any scheduled computer replacements that have been advised by IT, but what we do have is here is a desk and a chair and a computer for the potential new position.
I talked with Matt today, and we have one computer that is starting to go down. And one computer that needs to be replaced.
Okay.
Were those in the 23 budget though? You have 9,000.
Huge.
Do we have enough?
I was just wondering that, the actual version of the budget for 23 is.
So,
There's a big plat cabinet that they still, I've been talking with Gina
That's right.
about
That's right.
them spending their budget for this year because
Yeah,
they do have some
I'm
needs that
spending
are
it.
critical.
But not those 2 computers.
Not the 2 computers that John just showed. The last word, I didn't get direct communication from IT, so I will reach out to
Okay.
IT to confirm the addition of any machines that need scheduled replacement.
Okay.
And we'll leave it out for now, and I'll confirm with IT on that account.
Okay.
And then UAC registration fees, that refers to the spring, fall, and then you have a summer recorders workshop, and
is
that's
that right?
That's the registration fee associated with those 3 conferences. And that's pretty much the same across the board for any departments that participate with the UAC group. Any questions from the board on the recorder's office?
What's the large discrepancy in schooling for this year?
In what?
Yeah, well, I was schooling at 2023
I spent 185.
and we've only spent 185. Is there any particular any explanation for that? Did you have big plans for schooling? Was it maybe budgeted for 2 of you to go to UAC or something, or?
No, I didn't make spring UAC conference.
Okay. They've been pretty understaffed for most of the year, so I think that they've been pretty maxed out in terms of just
Yeah.
holding down the fort this year.
One thing we didn't touch on, Gina, is just the pending quote for the online service. Do you want to explain that maybe a
Oh,
little
we
bit?
didn't touch on that one. Yep, so with our coins, John Singer, I'm waiting on a quote from him for whatever the costs are for the online services to get
To be able to access
get
it.
online with everything we have currently
Got
and
it.
start that process.
Most of
So-
those records that'll be online are going to be, well, I don't know how to explain this. You'll pay a fee to get online.
There'll be a subscription
So,
and, yeah,
right.
subscriptions
subscription fee.
and fee and monthly fees.
For the county.
Yes.
Right.
And for the person creating an online account, that
Right.
Some could
Depending
be-
on what company and what we go and who we go through, there will be a profit share for that part. So I talked to San Juan and the company that they went through, it's a profit. They send that company a check every month. So.
And they get to keep some of that revenue
Yeah,
as well.
but the office gets to keep.
Okay,
That's through another company. That's why I'm not sure if we go through Coins and Singer, if we can keep it all, if it'll actually be more beneficial anyway to go.
and so
through
there will
Singer.
be a cost to the public to access records online?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm not
which is
familiar. I'm just
throughout,
trying to be clear.
throughout the Utah.
That's a
all the-
standard.
The counties are absolutely,
Okay.
actually, I have a sheet that has what they charge, all the counties, what they have, the companies and the programs and what they charge.
I think that's fair.
Oh, it's amazing.
If they come
It's-
down here, you pay for copies and everything. why wouldn't you pay
And
online?
it cuts down on so much ink, paper, and all that big budget stuff, the stuff that's expensive.
And
You know,
so,
we spend a lot of money on paper and ink for that office. And so being online and having that, people being available to get online and having our stuff digitized. I mean, we need to get this, we need to go. That's for sure.
One of the things that the legislature has done is mandated us to charge fees for copies and that kind of stuff. So
okay,
that's part of the reason why we'd be charging the public.
okay, yeah, great, thanks for offering that background. And perhaps we need to, I actually didn't look, if there are, oops, gotta make sure I say. If there, do you have is there oh yeah, recording fees, look at that, oh, it's a significant one, of course,
Mhm.
and we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
I was we were gonna go over revenues kind of more holistically or a bigger picture, going through all of these revenue lines, so, perhaps we won't talk about right at this very moment, where we want to project this out for 24.
Okay,
But that'll be a conversation that I'll have with you all offline, and we'll bring to this board, and you won't have to be here to present it. I can just sort of give the
go
detail
through
that
it.
you
Okay.
offer. But would that be added into this line, or would we want a separate line for that, like sort of online subscription?
I would say we might need a separate line in
Yeah.
case there's maintenance for it.
Yeah, I would kind of
Yeah.
agree with
I
that,
would think we probably need a separate.
yeah.
And then it's cost sharing with the associated expense line for it too,
Yeah,
Right,
Yep. yeah.
if it turns out to be that system.
great. Thanks for that detail. And I will bring also to your attention that administration just sent out a prompt countywide internal memo about updating the consolidated fee schedule. So it may be something that you want to consider including in that proposed fee schedule. Whether it's going to happen or not, it could be
Right.
put into the draft.
Okay,
And then even
Yeah.
if it's in the fee schedule, we can charge it, so it's good to get that in there.
right.
So if it's not in there, it goes in the fee schedule. And that doesn't usually pass until late November, early December.
Okay.
But so as long as you can have some numbers by then.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on to Singer. Pretty good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board regarding the recorder's budget?
I think it does look like that. So, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thanks
Did
a
it.
lot.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Moving right along here to the last department presentation, we have the commission and the commission administration. Do we want to call in Mallory and Alicia? All right, we have here joining us Commission Administrator Mallory Nassau. And also from the Commission Administration Office, Alicia Oliver. And also we've already had here Associate Commission Administrator Quinn Hall. to present the 24 budget requests for the county commission budget. That's in the general fund, 104111, as well as the administration's office budget, that's 4112. Which one did you prefer to start with? Did you have a, I've got commission open.
Let's go commission then.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll just go down the list.
Great,
unless
yeah,
you have
I'll
something.
let you go for sure.
Okay. So first we have, of course, salaries, which we won't know what that will be because there will need to be a cost of living adjustment, or there won't have to be, but the commission will have to vote on that.
No
those ones-
expected personal changes in the commission or level of positions, I guess, in the commission office, not commission admin office.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I made that more confusing. There's no change to the amount of positions in the
No new
commission.
commissioners.
No new commissioners. Yeah, I just-
I'm writing in my notes now. As I was like, no,
Like,
no,
is someone getting a raise? I'm not sure what's
No,
happening.
sorry,
if someone gets a raise.
went a roundabout way to say that.
Okay, then I'll skip down to the subscriptions and memberships. We don't have much in there. We're kind of trimming things, really. But we have $5,000 for the ETB agreement, which is with the Southeastern Association of Local Governments for, is it broadband, the free TV access. We're part of a partnership with 6 other counties. And then we have the Chamber of Commerce membership for $275,000. Next, we have public notices. We're asking for $1,000. What we did in the past, and you'll see it with the comm admin budget, is that we kind of bumped the commission down and increased comm admin, but everything got billed a little backwards. So we're going to go back to increasing this one and decreasing the other one.
It's almost like if you're looking, trying to get historical numbers about the public noticing for commission or commission administration, you would almost treat those two lines the same if you were trying to get a wider view.
Yes, absolutely. Then for individual commissioners, we increased everybody's to a base 2,000, or that's what's being proposed. A good, I guess, base that I used was looking at UAC. I believe it's just under $500 for registration. And then I'm going with, like $500 for lodging. And so, of course, there will be other travel and things that we can't predict because the commissioners go to various summits or legislative travel. So I think looking at it as, the say like $750 every time somebody goes up to Salt Lake City. So I actually think those numbers could be much higher, but I feel like people were comfortable with that. I did speak with a few commissioners who wanted a little more because they have known travel. So I believe Jacques, Bill and Mike, and I imagine a few other commissioners, when we actually talk through this a little more, might want more. It's just challenging because we can't have a quorum to make decisions. So it's catching people when they're present to ask. In terms of all the travel for the travel line item and then the travel legislative item, we just keep those blank. I believe the reason is historically, they've always just wanted to capture each commissioner's spend. So it's rolled into their individual line items. Fuel, I increased that quite a bit because we're getting more and more vehicles and updating our fleet. I think we'll be encouraging that use. So I actually anticipate that increasing quite a bit. And I do think that will help with the commissioner line items to have them use the county vehicle. Professional services, I'm not sure why it went to 13,000 last year. We do have a contract that is going to be renewed for the coming year for 9,500, so I just went with that number. Cell phone allowance is fairly simple. Special department supplies, we went up to $1,000 because we want to capture this, food or supplies for meetings like elected officials lunch. John Curtis has recently come to town, so we've gotten some snacks for that. And we put water in the chambers in that one as well. Inventory, we are proposing getting 12 new chairs for the dais. And looking at approximately $200 a chair. And then very exciting, we're looking at getting all new chairs in here. And
Kind of falling apart.
When you're like,
Take
look,
some-
I'm falling
A
apart.
little play in them.
We don't
A little
want
wobble.
to be too comfortable.
Yeah.
Gotta keep us awake, yeah.
Yeah, it's strategic. And so I don't think that that's too big of an ask, but I think it will go a long way with the space. Discretionary, we have some water study modeling, proposed funding, $10,000 to homeless prevention and crisis services.
Is that an amount that was budgeted last year as well, that homeless services?
Last year it was 6,000.
Okay.
I've spoken to a couple of commissioners about making that 10,000 and then splitting it between two entities that do a lot of homeless response prevention efforts. That was up a little.
How does that get decided,
In terms of the split or?
or where it goes?
I think that last year, one entity just got 6,000. I don't know where that number came from, but that's where I figured to keep it fair, we should have the other one and splitting it 50-50. I think Jameson is also in support of that because one of those services is available and sounds like helps his deputies quite a bit with after-hour emergency assistance. So putting people in hotel rooms. I don't know if that answers the question. but-
There's never been a formal process for establishing how the commission on a discretionary basis would offer funding to, say, nonprofit organizations or other community-based organizations.
Yeah, I'm
And
just wondering like who else has provided the homeless services?
Oh, it would be the Multicultural Center and Moab Solutions. See, we put in there some money for EV charging station grant match. This is kind of an unknown of how much it will be, but I thought it would be important to get something in there just so we can plan accordingly. I'm guessing it will actually be a lot more money. I think that's something that Chris was working on before he left, or at least getting with UAC for those initial numbers, so we can try to get those. And then we have 25,000 for true discretionary, as I'm calling it, which would be, various initiatives or grant match items that could come up where the commission wants to use that. Does not know of the need exactly at this point. And then the last one is the legislative consultant. This is a contract, so we carried over the same amount. And that's another one that will be in place and renewed coming year.
So I had a question about the previous line, that, the big discretionary budget item. I'm just wondering whether some of those could be, I think often things get stuck in there if there's a mid-year budget amendment and Chris didn't want to muck with the budget and other things, but it seems like some of these could go there's more logical places for them elsewhere in the budget. For example, the dark sky compliance, I assume appliances being handled in P and Z, and maybe it belongs there instead. And similarly, the electric vehicle charging station grant, that seems more like a capital expense. And I think we have a separate section of the budget for that. What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, it does feel like it's a very vague, like discretionary.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. That
So
idea.
it's not urgent, but if we have time, if we could stick these in more appropriate places in the budget, I think it, and just save this item for things that really just don't fit anywhere else. So,
So it sounds like we'll move 3,000 to code compliance, and the charging station grant match to capital line item.
yeah, for example.
And then on the legislative consultant, with that being a contract, but in historical numbers, we're not necessarily getting close. So how does that contract work?
I'm not sure. They submit invoices, so I'm guessing
When they work?
there's either a backlog or delay, or people are supposed to submit within 30 days, and they might not be doing that in a timely manner. But I'm not sure why.
Do we think we're gonna get to 50,000 ever, or is it more likely we're gonna remain like under 40?
Well, we have the contract for that amount, so
Yeah, that 50,000 number comes from the contract. I think it's for like a maximum of 50, but if he doesn't generate that many hours, then it actually costs less.
Maybe we need to get him to work?
So I think that is one of the cases where we would just budget for that amount. Even, yeah.
Your own questions. Thank you.
And I will say too, like the 25K in discretionary here, that doesn't really have a name on it. This is pretty much the only place in the entire budget where we would put that amount of money, build it into the budget without really a specific role or goal for it. And that's just because the commission, as elected representatives, it's been shown to be very useful for them to have that amount on a discretionary basis, and they would sort of just be transparent and discuss in a public fashion how those funds would be spent.
Well, and in regards to the homeless budget, I mean, I think it's a necessary cost, and I think that's awesome that we're budgeting that, but is this where it belongs? Does it even really belong in the county commission budget? I mean, I think that is a necessary cost, but like, they're helping our sheriff's departments, or are they actually supporting the county commission, or is that cost really going to support
I think
our law enforcement or
it's like a commission
gift?
initiative, right? So I don't know that the commission would want to make it an ongoing, like an annual contribution where it would have its own line item.
I just feel like
Maybe
within
they
the
do.
discretionary, there's a little bit of a lack of transparency, and like, it just doesn't necessarily fit there. If it's not discretionary, that's like a actual initiative.
Kevin, when has the commission previously used money from this line item? Or, well, just an example, I still don't know, so.
That's a good
So you're talking about the 25K true discretionary?
Yeah, just like a discretionary fund, where is it? I mean, to keep it under us seems, I mean, it's a commission's discretion, but what has it been used upon?
I think a big
Yeah.
one is grant matches.
Grant matches? Okay.
It could be grant matches, or sometimes someone comes up and makes a pretty innocuous funding request, but it's just easier to have a little bit of that cushion rather than go and have to revise different departments' budgets. I think that's part of how it gets used. So for very miscellaneous purposes, but it's always discussed in a commission meeting, and I think the actual expenditures that fall under that tend to not be controversial at all. It's unanimous votes.
Well, I'm sorry to play devil's advocate, like, how does it come to that just goes to multicultural center when I know that there's many nonprofits in town that support our homelessness efforts? This is
So-
just devil's advocate, but how does it get to the point where it's like?
That's a different line item, and I think I maybe agree with what Shaylee was saying a few minutes ago, that maybe we could find a different part in the budget for that. I think we have had discussions in the past about making contributions to nonprofits, and in my recollection of the consensus is, in general, we don't do that. You know, it's not, you know, we're not like the United Way, where every deserving nonprofit in the county gets a little bit of money from the county. We only give money when the nonprofit is helping the county perform some kind of essential county business. So I think dealing with homelessness falls under that category. I think some of the, you know, animal shelter control type things, maybe that's gotten money in the past. But I think typically the test is if the nonprofit is doing work which the county might feel obligated to do, if the nonprofit weren't there, then we will fund them. And so maybe there could just be a separate section in the budget for that type of thing, rather than putting it under the commission budget.
I worry that it opens the county up for all nonprofits that have any helping homelessness type initiatives, that they're like, well, why is that the only nonprofit that gets financial support from the county when we do this, and this also?
Well, we've been doing that way for a few years, and I think it hasn't become a problem.
I don't think anyone knows about it.
But we have
I don't
talked
know.
about in the future having a system for, I don't know, proposals, or even looking at the city that's on the to-do list. It sounds like they changed their process and actually have some pretty clear, these are the folks who provide services that we will fund. It's kind of taking that application or ask process out of it and just say you're eligible or you're not. But
And
and
the great thing, just want to make sure we're not opening ourselves up to weird people getting mad.
people do, and I think there's probably a number of similar contributions throughout. It's just, this is one of,
That's what the county commission has been doing for a while, yeah.
yes. what
Yeah,
was
That's
asked.
what it's definitely before.
I'm just noticing now, we have a line established here called water study contribution. So we could actually, I actually wasn't aware, but we could actually start using a line that already exists for something like water studies. So it seems
Excellent.
like we're well on our way to potentially, bringing this commission discretionary line, potentially even down to that 25K that is considered, true discretionary that the commission would discuss in public.
If you can find places for the others, it's just my
By all
job to
means.
ask
Makes it
what
even
the
easier.
commissioners want, so.
Good discussion.
Less work, good.
Yeah.
More work on Kate. Less work.
Mallory, I do want to follow up with you on the internal audit. I'm pretty sure I remember that 13 was quoted in the contract as just a built-in step up in there. I'm not, did you look into the contract with the internal audit to get that?
Did,
Okay.
but I could have been looking at an old one.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Right.
But that's the only way that I'm thinking that's why 13 had been set, but we can follow up on that and see
Yeah.
if that needs to be revised or 9,500 will cover.
We'll check.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the county commission side of this budget conversation? Okay. County administration, commission administration.
Yes. And so, again, the first part, we'll just skip over and get to the subscriptions and memberships. We are proposing to bring that down from the 2023 budget to $800. I think my notes are in there. Do you want me to go more in depth to that?
It's pretty straightforward. 800 covers Canva and DocuSign. Your office pays for DocuSign that the entire county would use. No,
Just our,
just yours. Okay, and so you bill out ones that other departments would use, or they budget for those separately?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
then the next one, public notices, is what I was referencing with the increasing the commission's budget and dropping ours down this year. Next, we have travel and did some rough numbers for just conference registration, kind of going off of UAC and that potential lodging, and then we did put in there miscellaneous county business and legislative travel. That is something that I think we need, and so I'm just trying to throw some numbers in there that are safe estimates, but we would not know that right now to a more concrete number.
What sorts of travel has county administration? What have y'all participated in from a travel standpoint?
I've been to the airport about 5 times.
Well, that doesn't count. But I know like last year, Chris went up to the legislative session. We would, in theory, do the same and probably should. I think it's just a matter of trying to stay afloat. And so sometimes we can't do that as much. But I know that there's a number of things commissioners have actually asked that we go with them to. Mike?
I personally asked down to at least the UAC conference. In my question, there was a lot of county administrators down there and a lot of networking that was, I mean, we all know it's needed.
I agree.
And I think attendance would really, I mean, love to have her there.
Great. Office
No.
supplies are down. Fuel is set to the same. Professional services came down there. Was there just some services that we dropped, or it looks like maybe it's more reflecting actuals?
I think that last year we had a lot of the potentials, a little miscellaneous and things that we were talking about pursuing. And this year, we're just trying to be more drilled down for your guidance.
Thanks. Social media ads, is that like, what does that refer to specifically, like Facebook boosts and ads and things of that nature?
Yes.
Public noticing, or not, I guess not noticing. but-
Outreach.
Yeah, outreach, there you go, that's the word. Efficiency and add-ons, what does that mean? That's kind of vague.
That's like, so if we were to add on some little attachment onto our Google Drive so that you can create some, I don't know, what's the one I just
Like
used?
Google Docs. and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, well, not
apps
just
within
Google Apps,
Google,
but like an
yeah.
app where you can, to try to automate some of our systems and.
Yeah.
Like Zapier.
Yeah, Zapier, that's. the one.
Call it.
Okay, yeah, so a lot of times that tech sort of stuff, there's that professional services or professional and technical services, and so that's typically the line that we use for those items. Cell phone allowance looks like that's going down. And special department supplies from 3,000 approved in 23 to 5,000 requested for 24.
Yes. Just wanted to do more. So this would be like leadership meetings, kind of above and beyond recognition for departments. And, we recognize you guys had this big thing going on and that was within the scope of your job, but we just want to buy you lunch as a thank you.
I'll make a note on that, Mallory, how that's different than what's included in my budget for incentives and appreciation. Mine would handle more of countywide employees and whatnot. The commission admin office would handle more department head, those who are directly under the commission admin office.
So it probably does have a very different feeling coming from HR versus.
Yeah, there's a bit of crossover there, but I don't think that the costs are crossover and that your appreciation is somewhat different than mine.
Right.
So make a note of that.
I'd say I've gotten a little bit of a glimpse maybe to admin's world and my tours and meetings with all the department heads to discuss 24 budget requests, and just come to only grow in my appreciation for the wonderful leaders that we have across our county, and how important it is to have them feel appreciated and all that good stuff. That's important, as any of those of us who manage people know. Inventory, we didn't have anything budgeted this year, but we got some things here.
Yes, so this would be our temporary plan for the old building inspector office is to put a large table in there as a meeting space. I'm looking at it, we're looking at it as a commissioner meeting space, so if they need to have 5 people come together, but the chambers are booked right now, it's kind of a where do you go? But that would of course be open to other folks who need to use it. And then we'll be using one of the offices in there, and the other one we're going to make into a commissioner office with the plan that that's easy to give up. So if something comes up or there's a new position, it's easy to take that office away from them. So that's where you'll see.
That's a tease.
I was like, yes.
Does it include a map to put in that table, that desk that has 2
Big and
sides on it?
colorful, yeah.
A Grand County map that we can have pet
Yes.
pawns on and
I
stuff?
would like that.
Like playing Risk
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
No, you can get like cannon out there.
Sounds like I'll have to increase the budget.
Yeah.
Be a very specific table.
Yes, very specific.
And so that request for 2024 to outfit that space, the old building inspector's office, is requested for $4,898, and that request is broken out in the displayed worksheet here.
Yes, and we do have some money. Right, I'm looking at the wrong thing. No, we have a printer in there and a computer and a laptop. IT said it. I need a new laptop. This Max thing, I
Oh,
just
sorry.
listened to the rules.
Is this what you're, sorry, we didn't,
The inventory equipment.
Oh, okay. oh yeah, all right, you're just providing further detail to this here. Yeah, oh yeah, scheduled laptop replacement, that's per IT. Thank you. All right, and then regular inventory. That's interesting, we don't usually have those 2 broken out, but we do here.
Yes, we do.
Fair enough.
We have 2 desks for the former building inspector space, some chairs, and then a comm admin chambers table, because we have this that Quinn and Alicia sit at in the meetings, because our space is very tight and they can't move, and it's very bulky, and I think it's actually a fire hazard.
We're trapped.
Some of us water commissioners have to get by and wouldn't mind it.
Yes, so are there any questions for that?
I don't like trapped, no.
We don't like
And
it either.
I was like,
Which way do we go?
Right, and then the schooling expense, which was approved for 6,000 in 2023, and there's a 2024 request now of 15,500.
Yes, so have 2 max requests for the schooling, and then a certified program manager, and then miscellaneous training and certifications, which I can. I'm
Certified.
prepared to defend.
The education reimbursement, I know one, just the other.
One for each of them?
One for each in the comment.
And that's for those seeking, usually it can be any sort of degree program or
That has-
qualified expense.
Yeah, it has benefit to the county, and we run those through reimbursement style, where the employee registers for all of the schooling, pays for it, and then gets reimbursed upon the average or higher. And it's a yearly max of $5,250.
Yes.
It's a great program Grand County offers its staff.
Yes.
It's nice to see it getting used or requested.
there's nothing back there.
I like it.
No,
How do we?
not sure.
Certified program manager.
So that's saving. I wanna
Certified,
do that. Take that out.
Public.
Yeah.
Public manager.
Certified public manager.
That's public, not program,
You better change that.
certified public.
Oh, is that like a certificate program kind of thing, or I'm actually not familiar with that.
Is
Like
that
a
the one
CPA, but a
through
CPM.
UBU? I know there's a couple different offerings, but there's one through like UBU for public administration, yeah.
So it's not like a MPA, it's maybe like a mini MPA or something, Masters in Public Administration. Well, I'm interested in that myself.
Side note, I did find an EFG contract. It's 9,500 renewable through 2025.
Oh, I wonder where it ended up at 1,300 or 13,000 last year. So for the record, moving back to, let me just say this before moving back to that. This professional services line in the commission budget, 9,500 is shown to be the correct amount to budget that the administrator included. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the comm admin or commission administration budget? All right, seeing no other questions or comments, I'll go ahead and close the discussion, the department presentation section of this meeting and move on to future considerations. One future consideration I had was that next week's Thursday was the only Thursday in this budget advisory board horizon where there was actually a conflict in the chambers. And I'm not sure, maybe comm admin could weigh in if as to whether it would be reasonable for us to approach the other entities about moving their location so we could stay here, or should we not, is that kosher?
Economic Development Advisory Board, I think it'd be happy to move the library.
Okay.
I'll reach out to him.
And then I think
I'll be on Zoom.
I think there's historic preservation committee too, right?
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, at 4.
That only speaks highly to the need for another room.
We'll just be out, we'll be out by
Thank you,
4.
Mike.
And
And that room,
Yeah.
you
Not
have
that I'm
been-
biased.
Yeah, you've been getting us through these pretty quick, so we should be done by 12.
So yeah, as long as we can get the
Thanks.
EDAP to move.
Thanks, guys.
Wait, I have EDAP's on Wednesdays.
Grand County Economic Development Advisory Board.
EDAP's on Wednesdays. Crap, I'm on that Wednesday.
You know, you just adjusted
I mean,
your own
that's a really important meeting for me to be at this next one, so I may not.
Okay, just let us know.
I think that's the one that they told you I could not attend, because my assistants gave me one.
in need, I can always attend extra.
That'd be super.
Any other comments or future considerations?
I guess I'll just bring up benefits here. We got our benefit renewal back from Cigna, and now the general kind of process with that is that I present it to the commission for approval so that we can move forward with budgeting, but also with open enrollment that's at the end of, or in November for the following plan year of 2024. So our renewal from Cigna was a 0% on our medical, 3-point-something% on our dental. And then some other smaller costs on the other, like life insurance plan, some of our other costs there. Overall, pretty good renewal. Got some of our questions answered that came up in leadership. So that gets presented to the commission next meeting.
Right.
And we can include that in the budget going forward.
Yeah, the EDAP is, it says it's on 27. It's next EDAP on Wednesdays. I don't have anything that conflicts this next Thursday, so I'm really confused.
Okay, well, we can settle that offline and we'll
I
just,
have EDAP on the 27th as well.
I'll go ahead. It's 3:26 PM and I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for your attendance and participation.
Thank you.